Rain hammered the rooftop as Tommy pushed open the creaky side door of St. Michael's Cathedral. The storm had come suddenly, turning the streets of Oregon into muddy rivers. Her shoes were soaked, her socks squelching with each cautious step. Thunder cracked above, shaking the church windows slightly. She paused, heart pounding, then stepped inside, letting the door shut behind her with a hollow thunk. It was dark inside, as expected. Only a few candles flickered at the altar, their flames casting long, jittery shadows on the cold stone walls. The cathedral smelled of old wood, damp stone, and faint incense. Tommy pulled her cleaning gloves from her bag and fitted them tightly over her fingers, wincing at the cold latex. She was alone, or so she thought. Her job was simple, or at least it used to be. Show up by 11:45 p.m., clean the aisles, mop the altar steps, polish the brass candle holders, and lock up by 1 o'clock a.m. But lately, something had changed. The other cleaners had begun whispering strange things. Some stopped showing up altogether. And every week, it felt like fewer people remained on the midnight shift. But she needed the money, and the priest, Father Benedict, paid in cash. She moved slowly toward the altar, the only sound being her mop bucket wheels scraping across the marble. Then she stopped. Something was wrong. Her eyes locked on the altar cloth, a once pristine white sheet embroidered with gold threads. Now it was streaked with something dark, something red. Blood. Her stomach turned. It wasn't old or dried. The stain was thick and fresh, as if someone had smeared it there moments ago. Her first instinct was to flee, but her feet wouldn't move. Her gaze remained fixed. What was blood doing on the altar of a church? Tommy stepped closer. Her breath came in short bursts. Her hand shook as she reached forward, touching the edge of the cloth. It was damp, still warm. She stumbled back, nearly knocking over the brass lectern. "God, what is this?" A noise came from behind, the soft creak of wood. She spun around, heart slamming against her ribs, but there was no one. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. It read 11:59 p.m., 1 minute to midnight. And that's when she remembered. The midnight cleaners. No one talked about them openly. They weren't listed on the rota. They didn't take payment. They just came every Friday night, like shadows. Tommy had only heard the rumors, whispers of rituals, odd prayers, and strange symbols wiped away before sunrise. One former cleaner said he saw them circle the altar and chant in a language he didn't understand. Another said they used incense that made people see things. Tonight, Tommy had volunteered to cover a shift alone. She had to know the truth. The church was still, dead still. Then the front doors opened with a loud groan. Tommy gasped and ducked behind the nearest pew, crouching low. Her fingers trembled as she clutched her phone. She turned off the flashlight. The footsteps echoed down the aisle. Tap, tap, tap. 3 figures entered. Mrs. Adeyemi, 80 years old and bent from arthritis, walked steadily down the aisle, no cane in sight. Chick, the silent organist, followed behind, carrying what looked like a cloth-wrapped bundle. Last was Father Benedict, his face unreadable, his white cassock pristine. They stopped at the altar, saying nothing. Then, Father Benedict pulled out a small vial from his pocket. He uncorked it and poured a dark liquid onto the blood-stained cloth. The room filled with a strange, metallic scent. Mrs. Adeyemi began to hum, a slow, haunting tune. It wasn't any hymn Tommy had ever heard. Chike unwrapped the bundle. Inside was a long, black candle. He placed it upright on the altar and lit it. The flame flickered blue. Father Benedict raised his hands. In the hour of silence, let this place be cleansed. Let the veil be lifted. Let the blood speak. Tommy clapped a hand over her mouth. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her legs wouldn't listen. Then, a new sound, a low hum, like an organ note sustained far too long. But it wasn't coming from the instrument. It came from the walls. The air grew heavier, the flames dimmed, the shadows lengthened, and the blood on the altar, what little remained, began to bubble. Tommy wanted to scream. Father Benedict turned. His eyes scanned the pews, slowly, carefully. We are not alone. Mrs. Adeyemi stopped humming. Chike blew out the candle. Instantly, the room went dark. Tommy's heart pounded so loudly she was sure they could hear it. She inched backward. One slow step. Another. Then her shoe slipped on wet marble. Her heel clicked against the wood. The sound echoed. A pause. Footsteps turned. Father Benedict stepped into the aisle. "Whoever you are," he said softly, "you have seen what you shouldn't have." Tommy couldn't breathe. She clutched her bag, rose silently, and bolted down the side aisle toward the sacristy. She heard someone yell. Footsteps pounded behind her. She threw open the side door and ran into the night rain, not stopping until she was blocks away. She collapsed against a tree, lungs burning, tears streaming down her cheeks. What had she just witnessed? Was it a ritual, a cleansing, or something darker? She wiped her face and pulled out her phone. She still had her audio recorder. Maybe it had picked up something. But when she played it back, there was only static. And one whispered phrase in the middle of it all. "You shouldn't have come." The next morning, Tommy barely touched her breakfast. Her hands were trembling as she held her cup of tea, and her eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep. Her roommate, Ifeoma, noticed but didn't ask. Tommy always kept to herself, but this silence was different. More hollow, more haunted. By noon, Tommy was seated at her favorite spot in the university library, headphones plugged in, trying again to analyze the recording. She skipped forward, nothing but static, until the end. "You shouldn't have come," the voice said again. This time, she noticed something else, a faint echo in the background. A second voice, deeper, raspier, muttering words in a language she couldn't understand. She turned off the recorder, slid her chair back, and stood. Her heart was set. She would go back. But she couldn't do it alone. That evening, she called Emeka. He picked up after 2 rings. Tommy, you okay? Meet me at the cathedral. Midnight. Bring your phone. And courage. He sighed. This better not be one of your ghost story hunts again. It's not a story anymore. They met near the chapel gate. Emeka looked unsure, shifting from foot to foot. Tommy explained everything, what she saw, heard, and barely escaped. Emeka went pale but nodded. I'm in, but we need a plan. They entered through the same side door. The church was quiet again, lit only by faint candlelight. They crept behind the confession booth. 11:58 p.m. Footsteps. 3 figures again. Mrs. Adeyemi, Chike, and Father Benedict. No hesitation. They walked with eerie synchronicity, as though choreographed by something otherworldly. The ritual began again. Blood was poured on the altar, symbols traced in the air. Tommy whispered, "Look." She pointed to a small sheet of parchment Chike held. On it were 3 rules. Do not speak during the cleansing. Do not face the altar directly. Do not reveal the watcher. What's the watcher? Emeka whispered. I don't know, Tommy said, but I think it's here. The candlelight dimmed. A low hum began again. Then the parchment caught fire. No matches, no lighter, just flames. It burned to ash in seconds. Father Benedict raised his head. Tonight, he said solemnly, we break one of the rules. Mrs. Adeyemi trembled. Chiki looked at the altar, then back down. You cannot mean... I do, said the priest. It's the only way to stop the screams. The watcher. Suddenly, Emeka's phone buzzed. The vibration echoed off the wood. The 3 figures froze. Father Benedict turned. Reveal yourselves. Tommy and Emeka stood slowly. There was no point hiding anymore. Why are you doing this? Tommy asked. The priest's face didn't change. You came back. Because I want the truth. He stepped closer. The truth? Then break a rule. Look at the altar. Tommy hesitated. Then she did. And what she saw would never leave her. Tommy stared. Her eyes locked onto the altar, and the moment her gaze met its surface, she felt something shift. Like the floor beneath her moved. The air thickened. Her vision blurred, but not from tears. It was as if the altar itself resisted being seen. The shadows around it pulsed. Behind the symbols traced in blood, a shape appeared. Not quite a face, not quite a figure, but watching, always watching. She stumbled backward, gasping. Emeka caught her. What did you see? He asked. I don't know, but it wasn't human. Father Benedict stepped forward. You've seen the watcher. Now you can't unsee it. Mrs. Adeyemi murmured a prayer. Chike turned away, visibly shaken. You broke the rule, the priest said, eyes solemn. And now it will follow you. Emeka pulled Tommy back. We're leaving. Father Benedict didn't stop them. Outside, the night was colder than usual. The rain had returned, soft and steady. Back in Emeka's car, Tommy stared blankly at her reflection in the side mirror. Her eyes looked different, wider, darker. She shivered. "What happens now?" Emeka asked. Tommy didn't answer, because deep inside, she already knew. This was only the beginning. Later that night, she dreamed. A long hallway, endless pews, a man walking backward, a bell ringing, and at the far end, the altar, lit in crimson. The same shape she saw before hovered above it, but now it spoke, not in words, but in sound. A chorus of whispers echoing in her mind. She woke up screaming. Morning sunlight poured through her window. Her roommate was gone. The room was quiet. Then she saw it. On her mirror, written in red lipstick. "You looked." Tommy bolted upright. Her legs felt weak. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Do not return to the altar. Next time it won't let you leave." She tried calling the number. It didn't ring, just static. She showed Emeka the message later that day. He paled. "We need help," he said. "Someone who knows more than we do." Tommy thought for a moment. "What about Sister Clara? She used to be part of the church before she left suddenly." They found her living in a small compound on the outskirts of town. When they arrived, she refused to let them in until Tommy said the word, "Watcher." Sister Clara opened the gate slowly. I was hoping no one would ever say that name again. Inside, the former nun offered them tea, her hands trembling slightly as she poured. "What did you see?" she asked. Tommy recounted everything. Sister Clara nodded grimly. "I saw it once too, 10 years ago. That's why I left. The Watcher isn't a demon. It's not a ghost. It's a deal." Emeka frowned. "A deal?" "The church was built on blood. The land beneath it is cursed. To keep the community safe, the priests made a pact to cleanse the altar every week with fresh sacrifice." Tommy leaned forward. "Sacrifice?" "The blood isn't symbolic," Clara said. "It's real." Emeka stood. "Then people have died." Clara nodded slowly. "Not just people, believers, volunteers." Tommy felt her world spinning. Why didn't anyone stop it? They tried, but the Watcher doesn't let go. Once you see it, it sees you. Tommy's hands began to shake. "So what do we do?" she asked. Clara hesitated, then reached into a drawer and pulled out a worn journal. "You need to go back, but not to watch, to destroy it." Tommy's eyes widened. "Destroy the altar? No. What's beneath it?" The journal felt heavier than it looked. Worn, leather-bound, and frayed at the edges, the pages smelled of dust and incense. On the first page was a single phrase written in faded red ink. "He who looks must listen. He who listens must serve. He who serves must not speak." Tommy frowned. "What does that even mean?" Clara replied softly, "It's the Order's creed, a secret society within the clergy, passed down through generations. This journal belonged to one of the last priests who tried to defy it." Emeka flipped to the middle, scanning the scribbled notes. "Here, below the altar, A second door. Beneath that, the room where he was kept. Who's he? Clara nodded toward the window. The first sacrifice. A boy, mute. They say his blood was used to seal the watcher's gaze in place. He was buried beneath the altar, but not allowed to pass. Tommy's face twisted. That's evil. Clara nodded. It is. But the town has known peace for years. No plague, no disaster. People started believing the Watcher was a necessary evil. Emeka looked up. And those who clean at midnight? What are they? Servants, keepers of the pact. They believe they're protecting the world from chaos. Tommy leaned back. Her head buzzed. She felt like she was drowning in secrets. Clara leaned forward. If you're going back, you need this. She handed them 2 small glass vials filled with clear liquid. Anoint your eyes before entering. It'll help you see past the illusion. And if we find the boy? Tommy asked. Clara hesitated. He doesn't rest. Not anymore. They spent the rest of the evening preparing. Flashlights, gloves, rope, audio recorders. Tommy also carried the journal, clutching it like a weapon. At 11:30 p.m., they reached the cathedral. Rain fell steadily. The same side door creaked open. Inside, all was quiet. No candles, no shadows, just silence. They moved quickly to the altar. Tommy whispered, "Last time, we saw something beneath it." Emeka pulled back the rug. There it was, a metal ring embedded in the stone. Together, they lifted. A hidden door creaked open. A staircase descended into black. Clara's voice echoed in Tommy's mind. He who looks must listen. They applied the liquid to their eyes. It stung. But immediately, the darkness looked different, more alive. Shapes moved along the walls. They descended slowly. The smell hit them first. Earth, blood, old incense. Then they heard it. Whispers, not from outside, from inside their minds. I see you. I see you. I see you. Tommy gritted her teeth. Ignore it. At the bottom of the stairs, a door stood closed. Symbols covered it. Emeka touched one. It pulsed with red light. The journal had a matching diagram. Tommy traced her finger in the same order. Click. The door opened. Inside was a room lined with stone. In the center, a coffin. But this one was glass. Inside lay a boy, his face peaceful, eyes shut. He looked no older than 12. Tommy stepped forward. Then his eyes opened. Black, hollow. His lips moved. You saw me. You heard me. Now serve. Tommy stepped back, heart racing. The boy sat up. Emeka raised the vial, unsure what to do. Then the lights flickered. Father Benedict's voice echoed down the stairs. Stop! They turned. He stood at the top, face contorted. Behind him, Chike and Mrs. Adeyemi. "You've ruined everything!" Tommy shouted. "He's alive!" "No!" Benedict roared. "He's the anchor. If he goes, the Watcher is unleashed." The boy stood, stepping out of the coffin. "Let me go." Tommy grabbed the vial and poured it onto the boy's chest. A burst of white light filled the chamber. Screams, darkness, then silence. When the light faded, the boy was gone. So was the coffin. The stone beneath their feet cracked open. A new staircase appeared, descending even deeper. A voice echoed from below. "You freed the boy, but the Watcher remains." The voice echoed like a breeze through stone, almost too faint to be real. "You freed the boy, but the Watcher remains." Tommy took a shaky step toward the new staircase. The ground around it was cracked, jagged like a wound torn open. It spiraled downward, the walls slick with moisture and streaked in something that looked too much like dried blood. Emeka aimed his flashlight down the tunnel, but the beam didn't reach the bottom. "How deep is this?" he whispered. Tommy didn't respond. She just gripped the journal tighter. With one last glance at the upper chamber, they descended. Step after step, the air grew colder, denser. The whispers returned, but different this time. Not just voices, but memories. Her memories. A teacher scolding her in primary school. Her father shouting in anger. Emeka's voice from years ago. "Maybe you care too much." Tommy shook her head violently. "This place plays tricks on us." Halfway down, they found symbols carved into the walls, same as those on the altar, but these moved, shifted. Tommy felt the sting in her eyes from Clara's oil fading. She stopped and reapplied. Immediately the wall shifted. What looked like a symbol revealed itself as a window, a vision. Inside she saw Father Benedict, much younger, kneeling beside the glass coffin from before. Behind him stood a man in red robes, his face hidden. The red-robed figure placed a hand on Benedict's shoulder. "You must serve, no matter the cost." Then the vision vanished. They kept moving. After what felt like hours, they reached the bottom. The chamber here was wide, circular. The walls curved inward like a dome. At the center, a monolithic stone structure pulsed with a faint crimson glow. Above it, floating in mid-air, was a mass of black smoke. Shifting, breathing. The Watcher. No face, just presence. Emeka stumbled backward. "What is that?" Tommy felt her body freeze. The Watcher spoke, not with a voice, but inside their heads. "You brought light where there was silence. You broke the pact." Tommy forced herself to speak. "Then make a new one." The Watcher pulsed. "A life for a life. The anchor is broken. Now you must choose." On the floor, a second coffin rose, wooden, smaller. Inside it, her. Tommy, asleep, peaceful. "What the hell?" Emeka gasped. The Watcher's voice again. "If you leave, she stays. If she stays, I remain sealed." Tommy fell to her knees. "It's a soul exchange." She looked up at Emeka. He stepped forward. "Then take me." "No!" she shouted. The watcher paused. Two offers. Only one accepted. The air thickened. The chamber shook. Suddenly, another voice cut through the air. Clara. She emerged from the shadows, carrying a chain of gold rings. I bind you in the name of the first word. The rings glowed. The watcher shrieked, a mind-breaking sound. Clara threw the chain onto the monolith. The red light vanished. The black smoke condensed, spiraled, and exploded into silence. The chamber was still. The coffins vanished. Tommy collapsed. Emeka caught her. They turned to Clara. She was crying. It's over, she said. But as they climbed the stairs back into the church, none of them saw the small crack that had formed in the floor behind them. A single black tendril slipped through. The silence stretched through the church like an unseen fog. No one spoke as the trio emerged into the sanctuary. The rain had stopped outside. It should have brought peace, but the air felt wrong, too still. Tommy looked over her shoulder at the altar. It hadn't changed. The cloth was clean, the candles unlit, but something about the shadows seemed longer. Clara wiped her eyes and stepped ahead. We need to sanctify the church again, fully, before morning. Emeka frowned. Won't the chain hold? Clara hesitated. I thought it would, but that tendril, it wasn't part of the watcher. What do you mean? Tommy asked. Clara took a deep breath. The watcher was guarding something, not just bound to the church, but trapping something worse beneath it. Tommy's stomach dropped. Then by freeing the boy, we opened more than just a chamber. Clara nodded. They began cleaning, physically and spiritually. Clara anointed the pews, muttering Latin prayers. Tommy swept the aisles, not to clear dust, but to feel the vibration of the wood. And Emeka replaced the candles, each time lighting them with a trembling hand. But then, the front door creaked open. They froze. A figure entered, hunched over, cloaked. His face was hidden under a hood. Clara's face turned white. I know him. The man stepped forward. His voice cracked like dry leaves. You shouldn't have disturbed it. Brother Gabriel, Clara whispered. You died. I was buried, he said, but not gone. He pulled back his hood. His face was pale, half rotted, eyes sunken. I kept the silence for decades. But now, it's broken. Tommy stepped between them. What are you talking about? Gabriel turned his sunken eyes to her. When the boy was sealed, the church made a deal. One watcher above, one guardian below. When the altar was broken, the guardian stirred. The guardian? Emeka asked. Gabriel didn't answer. Instead, he collapsed. His body hit the stone floor with a dull thud, but from his chest something began to move. A bulge, pulsing, then tearing. A hand burst through, thin, black, and clawed. Clara screamed. They backed away. Gabriel's body twisted violently. The creature emerging from him wasn't human. Long limbs, no eyes, a mouth too wide, filled with teeth that shimmered like glass. It screeched. The candles blew out. Darkness. Then Tommy felt it, inside her mind. Silence. Absolute silence. No thoughts. No voice. Not even her own breath. She tried to scream. Nothing. She reached out for Emeka. He was frozen. Clara dropped to her knees, grasping her rosary. Then a glow, faint, from beneath the altar. The journal in Tommy's bag vibrated. She pulled it out. On the last page, new writing. The guardian is not bound by chains, only by remembrance. She didn't understand, but she shouted the phrase aloud. The silence cracked. The creature screeched again, recoiling. Emeka gasped, free from the trance. "Say it again!" Tommy screamed it. Clara joined. "By remembrance." The creature twisted, its limbs contorted, face melting. Then it vanished. Light returned. Tommy fell to her knees. "What was that?" Emeka whispered. Clara stood slowly. The guardian. Silence incarnate. It steals memory, voice, identity. If we forget, it wins. Tommy clutched the journal. Then we must remember. Tommy sat on the cathedral steps, knees tucked under her chin, staring into the early morning light. The storm had passed, but her thoughts hadn't. The guardian, the watcher, the pact, the memory-stealing silence. It all looped in her mind like a broken hymn. Clara emerged from the chapel behind her, rubbing her wrists where the guardian's energy had left invisible burns. "It's growing stronger. That crack, it wasn't just a breach. It was a signal." "To what?" Emeka asked, stepping forward from the other side of the aisle. Clara looked between them. "The world is forgetting, not just people here, everywhere. The guardian doesn't need to walk to spread. It moves through memory." Tommy's voice shook. "So what now? How do we fight a creature that erases thoughts?" Clara knelt beside her. "We remember. We create anchors, symbols, triggers, things that keep the truth alive." Emeka pulled out his phone. "We could record everything, upload it, make it viral. If the world sees it..." Clara shook her head. "Digital memories fade, files get lost, servers crash. The guardian preys on laziness. If no one writes it down, draws it, sings it, it disappears." Tommy's eyes lit up. "Then we start with the church." They worked through the morning. By noon, verses were painted on the walls. Not Bible scriptures, but their story. What they saw, who they lost, what rose in the dark. Tommy copied pages from the journal onto parchment, hiding them in pews. Clara etched warnings beneath the altar with holy ash. Emeka recorded testimonies on cassette tapes, hiding them in church hymnals. They carved "Remember" into every wooden surface that would hold a knife. But it wasn't enough. That night, Clara didn't return. They found her rosary outside her cottage, and her name, erased from the journal's entries. Tommy gasped. "She's being forgotten." Emeka held up her rosary. "We have to go back to where she last faced it." The crypt beneath the church. Tommy hesitated but nodded. They descended the stairs again. This time, The air was different, not cold, not damp, but hollow, like walking through empty thoughts. The candles they left burning before were out. The monolith was cracked, and in the far corner, something moved. A figure. They approached slowly. It was Clara, or what was left of her. She sat in the dark, eyes open, lips moving silently. Tommy rushed forward. "Clara!" No response. Her mind gone. On the wall behind her, one phrase was carved repeatedly. "I must remember. I must remember. I must remember." Tommy began to cry. She fought it until the end. Emeka touched Clara's shoulder. "Then let's finish what she started." They took her back to the surface, burying her beside the church. But when they tried to place a name on her grave, the chisel cracked. The marble rejected her memory. Tommy whispered, "Then we give her another name." She scratched it into the wood of the nearest pew. But if names are now being erased, what happens when Tommy's own name begins to vanish? That night, Tommy dreamed again. She was walking through the church alone. The pews were gone. The altar, blank. As she stepped forward, voices whispered from the walls. "Who are you?" they asked. "I'm Tommy," she replied. But the voices only repeated, louder, more insistent. "Who are you?" She opened her mouth again, but no sound came out. She looked down. Her hands blurred, her body fading. She woke up screaming. Morning light spilled across the room, but her name tag on the wall was gone. The one from university orientation. Just blank space where letters used to be. She ran to her desk. Her ID card. It now read, Miade E. Panic surged in her chest. She rushed to the church, barely tying her shoes. Emeka met her at the gate, his eyes wide. "I can't find your number in my phone," he said. "It just says unknown." She held up her ID. "It's happening to me." They rushed inside. The journal still lay on the pulpit. She flipped to the latest page, where once was her name as the last entry. It was blank. Emeka shouted, "There has to be a way to fix it." Then he paused. "Tommy, what's your full name?" She opened her mouth. Nothing. Not a sound. Not a syllable. He stepped forward. "Try to write it." She grabbed a pen, scribbled on the back of the journal. Her hand moved, but the ink vanished instantly. Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm being erased." Emeka grabbed her by the shoulders. "We're not letting that happen. You're still here. I remember." She sobbed. "But what happens when you forget?" Then a low hum echoed through the church. They turned. The back door opened slowly. 3 figures stepped in. Father Benedict, Chike, Mrs. Adeyemi. But they looked different now. Emptier. Their eyes clouded, their mouths moving without sound. They walked forward in unison, arms stretched. Emeka grabbed Tommy's hand. "Run!" They raced toward the sacristy. Behind them, the trio followed, whispering the same phrase over and over. "Let her go, let her go, let her go." In the small chapel, Emeka slammed the door shut. Tommy gasped for air. A mirror on the wall caught her eye. Her reflection didn't show, not her body, not her face, just emptiness. She fell to her knees. I'm slipping away. Then the journal glowed. A new phrase appeared. A name is more than sound. A name is an act. Emeka read it aloud. Then we speak her story. We perform her memory. He stood. Your name is Tommy Adeyeye. You fought the Watcher. You freed the boy. You honored Clara. You remember. With each sentence, a shimmer appeared around her. Her fingers returned. Her reflection flickered. Keep going, she cried. You exposed the midnight cleaners. You broke the chain. You challenged the pact. A burst of light. She collapsed, whole again. The whispers stopped. The door creaked open. But no one stood there now, only silence. Tommy stood shakily, her name tag back on her shirt, the journal clear again. She looked at Emeka. You saved me. He nodded. No, he said softly. We remembered. The wind howled outside the cathedral as a black car pulled up beside the iron gate. A figure stepped out, tall, well-dressed, calm. His presence alone caused the dogs in the neighborhood to go silent. He didn't knock. He walked through the open gate like he belonged. Inside, Tommy was sketching the Watcher from memory in charcoal. She'd begun documenting everything, creating physical records. A new journal, a mural of the altar, copies of the chants. Emeka glanced at her from across the pew. You're obsessed. Tommy didn't look up. If we forget again, we lose. If the world forgets, we die. Then the church door creaked. The man entered. Father Benedict trailed behind him like a ghost. Chike and Mrs. Adeyemi followed, their expressions blank. The man's voice echoed softly. My name is Minister Adebayo. I represent the diocesan authority. Tommy froze. The church sent you? I sent myself. He looked around. This place is under review. Emeka stepped forward. Review for what? Reallocation, demolition, repurposing. Tommy's blood ran cold. You can't. This place is dangerous, Adebayo finished, and irrelevant. He walked up the aisle, pausing at the altar. This is the price of letting secrets grow. Now we cut it down. Tommy's voice shook. You know what's buried here. I do, he said, and I choose to forget. With that, he turned and snapped his fingers. The lights went out. A burst of wind rushed through the sanctuary. The wall where Tommy had carved Clara's name shattered. Pages flew from the journal. Paint peeled off the mural. A low hum began to rise again. Tommy screamed. He's doing it! He's erasing it all! Adebayo turned. Knowledge is a burden. Memory is a cage, and cages can be unlocked. He reached into his coat and pulled out a red crystal. The room pulsed. From the cracks in the stone, the guardian's whisper returned. Tommy and Emeka ran to the altar. She held the journal to her chest. We remember, she whispered. We remember. Adebayo raised the crystal and shattered it on the floor. Light exploded. Time twisted. Tommy saw herself, older, forgotten, walking alone. She saw Emeka, screaming, but no one hearing. She saw Clara, disappearing completely. Then the light vanished. They stood alone. The church was intact, but quiet. Too quiet. Adebayo was gone. So were the others. Emeka whispered, "Did we win?" Tommy looked around. She picked up the journal. Every page was blank. "I don't know." Tommy sat in the front pew, the empty journal open in her lap. No ink would stay. No drawings remained. Not even her name left a mark. It was like the pages had been scrubbed clean by a force deeper than time. Emeka paced nervously near the altar, glancing at the broken floor tiles, now sealed as if they had never been cracked open. "This doesn't feel like victory," he muttered. "It's not," Tommy said. "It's cover-up, and Adebayo was just the beginning." She looked around. The paintings were blank. The statues had no faces. Even the stained glass now showed only color. No saints, no stories, no symbols. Tommy stood. "We need to leave." Emeka raised an eyebrow. "Go where?" "Somewhere they haven't touched. Somewhere memory still lives." As they stepped outside the cathedral, the air felt different. Lighter, but not safer. The town was too quiet. Shops were open. People walked by. But no one looked up. No one greeted them. Tommy waved at a familiar face. The woman stared back blankly. "Sorry. Do I know you?" Emeka tried another. "Uncle Dio, it's us." But the old man blinked, confused. "Who?" The fog was spreading. Tommy whispered, "He's not just erasing the church. He's erasing the story from the whole town." They ran to the local library. Empty. Every book on history, gone. Church records, missing. Even the town's founding plaque had been chiseled off. "What do we do now?" Emeka asked. Tommy pulled out the last tool they had, the vial Clara once gave her. "There's one place left," she said. "The crypt beneath the school. That's where the pact was first signed. Maybe the roots are still alive there." They reached the school by dusk. The back garden held a rusted gate, half hidden by ivy. Behind it, a cellar door. The lock crumbled in Tommy's hand. They descended into the crypt. Torches lit automatically as they stepped in, triggered by a force neither could explain. And there, on the wall, carved in old stone, "In the name of silence, we remember not. In the blood of faith, we seal the void." Tommy whispered, "This is it." But before they could explore further, footsteps. Dozens. From the corridor behind them emerged rows of children, students, all walking slowly, eyes glazed. In front of them, Adebayo, or something wearing him. His voice echoed deeper now, layered with something not human. "You seek to remember, but memory is rebellion." Tommy stood firm. "Then we rebel." She poured the vial onto the stone. Light erupted. The carving began to burn, glowing with golden fire. The children paused, blinked. Then one by one they gasped. Waking up, the wall split. Behind it, a staircase, and from the depths, a whisper. Not fear, not silence, but hope. Tommy turned to Emeka. "This isn't the end." He nodded. "No, it's the real beginning." The air beneath the school grew warmer as Tommy and Emeka stepped through the split wall. The light behind them dimmed. Ahead lay a spiral staircase carved from the same stone that had once sealed the Watcher. Each step they took downward made their thoughts clearer, sharper, as if memory itself was anchoring them. The final step opened into a massive underground cathedral, long forgotten. Massive murals covered the ceiling, telling the real story of the town. Not the one in books, but the truth. The formation of the pact, the arrival of the Watcher, the vow of silence. This is where it all started, Tommy whispered. Emeka nodded, wide-eyed. And this is where we end it. In the center stood a stone pulpit, cracked but glowing faintly. On it sat a thick, chained tome. Tommy approached. Her hand trembled as she touched it. Suddenly, voices filled the room. Not screams, not chants, but whispers of names. Clara, Father Uche, Ifeoma, her own name, Emeka's. The book recognized them. As she opened the tome, words appeared, etched in glowing ink. The ones who choose to remember must become the new Watchers. Tommy looked at Emeka. This is why it's us. From behind them, a sound. Adebayo again, alone this time. His eyes, clear. I tried to silence it, he said quietly. But the deeper you bury the truth, the louder it roars. Tommy held up the book. Then help us preserve it. He stepped forward. No more forgetting. Together, they placed their hands on the stone pulpit. Light burst upward, illuminating the murals. The cathedral walls shimmered. Above ground, the church bells rang again for the first time in weeks. In the town, people stopped, blinked, looked around. Names returned. Memories reawakened. Children laughed. Old men sang. Paintings restored themselves. The fog lifted. In the crypt, Tommy and Emeka stood back as the tome sealed itself again. The pact had changed, no longer based on silence, but on remembrance. Tommy looked at the camera now set up by the altar. If you've watched this far, she said, then you are part of the resistance. You are part of those who choose to remember. Emeka stepped beside her. We can't do this alone. Share the story. Subscribe to the channel. Like it. Leave your thoughts below. Help us protect what's real. Help us fight forgetting. Tommy added, because this story isn't over. What we saw beneath that crypt, there's more. So much more. A final flash of light revealed a new staircase hidden behind the murals. Tommy looked into the lens, her eyes steady. Stay tuned for part 2 of the story. We'll be back. And you'll want to be here when the truth finally rises.